A massive thank you to any one of you that supports the channel, leaves a comment and just generally engages with the SwitchUp family. We really appreciate it. So, anyone else remember spending hundreds of hours controlling a lanky skateboarder mucking about around grotty warehouses, challenging a friend to head to see who was the OG on 4 wheels, or just blasting around solo, learning new tricks and trying desperately to keep the flow going with a well-timed endo? If you haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skating on the PlayStation. If that and Splatoon ever had a baby, then Crayola Scoot is what would pop out. Is this an irritating, adolescent, slick-haired, spotty nuisance with very colourful braces? Or is this more than the sum of its obviously borrowed parts? Let's find out. After a brief and relatively simplistic character customization, where you can choose gender, height and paint colour, you're let loose in a rather lovely looking hub area. Here you're taught the basics of the game and subsequently left to get on with it. The area is surprisingly large and provides a great place to hone your skills, as controls are initially quite tricky. You can accelerate and brake, while boosting will use up your paint. The difficulty comes in the form of the jump, which is executed by either pressing up on the right stick, or to perform a boost jump you hold down on that stick and then press up when you hit the edge of a ramp. You may be holding RZ to go while pressing B to boost and then somehow jumping as well. Fortunately, you can boost using RB, but even so, RB and RZ at the same time, it's not the most comfortable move to pull off. Tricks are performed using the right stick, and there are a decent number of these, with more advanced tricks soon becoming possible, depending really on how quickly you pick up the controls. Just as in Tony Hawk's, if you fail to release the trick in time, you're going to crash out. Turning can feel a little too wide an angle even when braking, but it isn't a deal breaker. While my initial concerns about control began to fade after a few hours of muscle memory, it never felt quite perfect. Just like my rollerblading self in the 90s, you can grind on rails. Thankfully, unlike my rollerblade self from the 90s, here you can actually stay on the rails, and as you begin to slow down, use a shot of boost to keep things ticking over. The real fun comes when you begin to try and string a series of tricks together to boost your overall combo score. Plus, the more you trick, the more you paint the stage, which takes us nicely onto the game types. When you first leave the hub area through the teleporter, you're shown 3 large stages, with many levels locked out under a level cap wall. Here the aim becomes clear. Level up your character by completing a variety of stages and let the unlocking begin. These vary from a total Splatoon 2 ripoff, where you must paint the most level in your colour, yep, sounds familiar, by performing tricks and boosting over special checkpoints, which in turn trigger paint explosions of your colour. These are frantic and genuinely enjoyable, but aren't quite as fun as the source of inspiration. When you are victorious, you stand a chance of being challenged by a legendary scooter. Such as this fella. Here you must complete to get the highest trick multiplier within a set time. Whoever loses each round gets a letter of the word scoot. You scoot, you lose. I enjoyed this mode. It was a fun distraction and a good reference point for how your skills are developing. Other game modes such as tag have you chasing other players and tagging them with your colour, and the frantic checkpoint style match where you're collecting crayons from around the level. At the end of each round there are several side awards, the conditions of which are shown at the beginning of each stage and will net their winner extra experience and loot to spend pimping your ride. Oh man, I just had Tim Westwood flashbacks.
It's your boy Westwood back with a brand new series of Pimp My Ride UK.
Ooh. So this all sounds pretty great. Well, yeah, it is surprisingly good actually. Unfortunately, this game copies so much from other titles that it struggles to create its own unique identity. There is a very fun game here. It's great in co-op, offering up to 4 of you the chance to battle it out, but forgoes the one feature that keeps its inspiration so enjoyable for such a long time. You know what's coming? Online multiplayer. It seems like a massive loss for the game not to have it, especially considering the variety of game modes on offer. If you're fortunate enough to have 3 comrades in Switch arms to join you, this is classic Nintendo-esque split-screen shenanigans that you will struggle not to enjoy. Nonetheless, gameplay still scores a solid 16 out of 20. Lack of online definitely docks it a point or two. Controls score 14 out of 20. Every game should have multiple control schemes. I would have liked to have tweaked the button combinations a little. Insert as many synonyms for colourful as you can and you won't be far off Crayola Scoot. With a cel-shaded familiar style, even the animations seem pulled straight from that series we keep talking about, Splatoon. Once again though, they are really handled well, and if you're going to emulate others, this is the way to do it. Levels are varied and very detailed with intertwined complex routes throughout them. Performance is decent. While it never seems to drop below a smooth 30 frames a second, it isn't quite 60 all the time. Still, it runs well in both docked and handheld. The split screen performance is excellent as well. While suffering a few less frames, it works brilliantly despite my inability to control 3 controllers. Friends. Visuals scores 17 out of 20. My 5-year-old heard the game and spontaneously began to dance. Its sickly sweet and eternally poppy optimism fits the demographic, and as my daughter pirouetted around the room, I had to switch off my old man brain and try and enter the mindset of a sugar-hyped kid. While I may dislike the genre of music, I must admit it does tie well with the aesthetic and serves to make the whole game feel more exciting. My main gripe is this borrowing thing again actually. If you listen to the songs, they sound eerily familiar. As if they are 1 or maybe 2 notes from every current pop song in existence, while being about as memorable as an X Factor runner-up. Audio scores 14 out of 20. The game retails at £34.99 and $39.99 and can be had physically. Listen, if I was 10 and I got this at Christmas, I'd be delighted. There are tons of different races and activities to blast through. While the number of courses may not be huge, replayability is high, especially if you have the prerequisite group of pals to join you. The game would have been right at home on the Nintendo 64 in terms of how well it supports 4-player split screen. It also feels premium and will last a good long time. For my money, it should have been around $29.99. That would have been the sweet spot for me. It can be purchased as, like I said, a physical copy, and this would be the avenue I'd go for, as you're likely to pick it up for a reduced price. Value scores 13 out of 20. So there we have it. I'm surprised how good the game is. It's a real feel-good competitive game with a much more deep trick system than I anticipated. The biggest compliment I can pay it is that it stands its ground despite its comparisons to other games. It excels in areas such as split screen and you always feel you're progressing. On harder difficulties, it's brutal and will give anyone a run for their money. If you're nostalgic for an old school Tony Hawk style experience with an upbeat Splatoon-esque vibe, I think Crayola might have your back. It scores a SwitchUp score of 74%, a pleasant, colourful surprise. Thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the channel. If you don't, no worries at all. I'll see the rest of you on the next one. Cheers guys, keep it Switch Up. See ya!